We'll still will. Hi, everyone. Mitch from PickDogs.com. We got Big Al McMorty. We got Jay Briggs here. It's championship week here for the NFL. And then there were 4 teams left. I think over the course of the last half of the season, not a giant surprise as to, that these 4 teams are there. I think all along there's been maybe 6 or 8 teams that could have been here. And that these 4 were always part of that group. There's no real surprise team in here. We have a rematch in the AFC. We have the 49ers are back in the NFC. They were in this game last year. And the Eagles, who had the best record all season long. So, not a lot of surprises there. I thought of the games on over the weekend. To me, the Bengals look to be the most convincing as far as one-sidedness of things. Maybe the Eagles against the Giants as well. But I still thought the Giants still had chances, while the Bills, I felt, never had a chance. And, that I still think the Cowboys should have won that game. At halftime, I felt the Cowboys were going to win that game. I felt they had outplayed the 49ers at that point. I thought it was 2 interceptions were the difference at that point. And really, the one thing that we talked about at halftime, I said that the Cowboys had prevented Kittle from really making a play that inspired the team. That's, we talked about at halftime that hadn't happened. I don't think it was anything that the Cowboys did wrong there. I think he just made a play. And I think that's the difference. And we could say Dak's 2 interceptions all you want. I really don't think that was the difference too. What about the other, 8 drives? What about the, McCaffrey running, into the end zone, standing up, against a defense that played pretty well, held them to a bunch of field goals. So we do have the 4 good teams left, 3 quarterbacks under rookie contracts, 1 guy that makes $50 million a year. Al, would you think anything on last week's games?
It was disappointing because there were 2 teams I was rooting for different reasons. I was rooting for Kansas City because it was my NFL game of the year, and that didn't go well. And then I was rooting for Buffalo because they were my preseason pick to win the Super Bowl, and that didn't go well. So it was just overall just a disappointing, NFL weekend for me. But I think the best teams made it. I don't think there's any argument that the 2 best teams in the AFC this year were Cincinnati and Kansas City, and I don't think there is any argument that the 2 best teams in the NFC are Philadelphia and San Francisco. So I think we've got a hell of a championship weekend coming up. That's, kind of how I look at it.
Joe Burrow and the Bengals had a couple of calls go against them in that game. It didn't matter. They made it not matter. They took it out of the refs' hands is what they did. And at a certain point, the refs kind of just said, you know what? There's nothing we can do here, and we're just going to have to call it fair and square. But at that point, the game was already decided. The Bengals had decided it. And it was amazing how one-sided it was, I don't think we've seen the Bills lose games, but not just handled like that.
Yeah, they never threatened Cincinnati at all. So, and they were going to probably lose on that Monday night as well. So it's not like they just got beat once; they got beat one and a quarter times. So
the Bengals certainly played with a chip on their shoulder. Jay, we talked about the Cowboys at halftime of the game. I feel exactly the same way now that I felt at halftime of the game. I think the Cowboys had every chance to win that game. I don't think it was Dak Prescott's 2 interceptions. I think one of them was a bad throw. The other one was a tip ball, the ball thrown a little bit behind a receiver. But, it being an interception, it's like, it wasn't like he threw it into it wasn't like the Packers game, right? It was like this was a little different. And, the thing is you can't allow those tip balls in the playoffs. These are the teams that are there because they get those. But it was more, I thought the Pollard injury is kind of it took that extra dimension out of the Cowboys offense that they became more defendable, right? Because Dak didn't throw an interception in the second half. They became more predictable, right? As to what was going to happen.
Yeah, I'm still sore about that one. It's tough because I really thought, this was our year. I really thought that. I thought that we were even in the middle of the game. I felt like, even like you said, we were the better team, but we weren't. And that's just as simply what it came down to. Defense showed up to play, but when it came down to it, they failed to make some stops in the red zone. My favorite player, Trayvon Diggs, dropped the interception that would have changed that game. Offense, they just didn't get it done. And that's what I've witnessed for 23 years, and that's just what the Cowboys are at this point. Now the championship weekend, it's very interesting. Very interesting, man. So I'm ready to talk about it. I'm ready to see who y'all like, and on to it.
The talk on social media is really negative on Dak Prescott here. Your other guy, Parsons, coming out pretty much anti-Dak on this. He is, you can't get rid of him, so
this is what I'll say. Everybody keeps asking me the same things, and I told everybody I need a week to digest before I just, because right now, if I talk about it, it's just straight emotion. So,
Al, did you hear the Parsons comments?
I haven't heard.
All right. So what Parsons said is 3 of the teams in the playoffs that are left, 3 of the 4 that are left have quarterbacks playing under rookie contracts that have a lot of good guys around them. That was his comment. This is Micah Parsons, the Cowboys' best player. He said 3 of the 4 teams have a quarterback under a rookie contract with a lot of good guys around him. Basically saying Dak Prescott makes too much money.
Or
Dak Prescott, who makes, $50 million, which takes away from what you can surround him with. That was the shot. I mean, that was the shot.
I don't think so, but again,
why else would he say it?
Because the Bills guy said something as well. The Bills guy shot a shot at Cincinnati first, and then Micah was kind of commenting on it, and then Micah walked it back.
But I'm just curious, is that a shot at Cowboy management, or is that a shot at Dak? If it is a shot.
Well, Dak Prescott threw the most interceptions this season, and he played in less games.
No. But my point is that players generally support the right of other players to get all they can get. Right?
You want to know the truth on what I think it is? I think it's just my generation. We just talk too much. He's just on Twitter, just tweeting. Honestly is what it is. He just is commenting on everything, and then people are going to take this one little quote and run with it. Is what it is, honestly.
Well, that's what we do, Jay.
Yeah, I know.
That's why we're here. We'll twist it in a way that works for us, and we will continue to state it as fact.
I don't think you'll ever get or you should never get an athlete begrudge another athlete of getting paid, right? I mean, that's the whole object, is to get paid. So, I don't know exactly what he meant by that, and I don't want to assume.
The way it's been interpreted is that he's saying that Dak makes too much money, and that's why they lost. The thing that he did not mention was that the 49ers have 2 quarterbacks that aren't playing right now that both make a ton of money also, and Trey Lance and Garoppolo.
I mean, you can also interpret it, if you want to interpret it, as, 3 of the teams can afford a better supporting cast because their quarterback is on a rookie contract.
But I think also, what he's also saying is maybe the quarterback's not as important as what people say, as the credit that they get. That could be it too.
Yeah,
I mean,
I would support that. I could see that
because they certainly do get all of the accolades. Anyways, we've got the Eagles and the 49ers, teams with the 2 best records in the NFC this season, and they certainly have earned their spot into this game. Last year the 49ers beat them, right?
I can't remember. I know they beat Dallas. Who else did they beat? I don't remember. Did they play last year?
I think last year they played. I don't think they played this year.
Who?
Eagles and the 49ers.
No, yeah, I don't think they played this year.
I know they didn't play this year. I didn't even realize they played last year.
I think they did.
I don't remember.
Yeah, it's slipped my mind.
I think Ayuk had the big game. So, let's see. Anyways.
Yeah.
What do you see?
I'm curious.
Yeah, they played in 2021. So that
yeah,
would be last
okay.
year. 17.
They played in September. They played in September of 2021.
Yeah, so that was Ayuk had the big catch in that game.
Okay,
What I remember.
Let
me see what his stats were. Samuel 6 catches, 93 yards. So Ayuk had only 1 catch for 6 yards. Did they have a run? What was it? I must be thinking of a different game. Anyways, 17-11.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me in this game, I like San Francisco, and it really, for me, it comes down to the defense. Just in basic points per game allowed, San Francisco's defense rates 3.07 points per game better than Philadelphia's. And if you take a look at how underdogs have done in the playoffs with the better defense, if you're just looking at the points per game metric, they've gone 95 and 76 ATS since 1980, including 16 and 6 ATS if their win percentage was greater than 770. I also like the fact of how well San Francisco has been playing of late versus, the upper echelon teams. If you just take a look at San Francisco's point spread record against winning teams, they're 13-2 ATS their last 15. Philadelphia doesn't compare when you look at Philadelphia under that metric. Philadelphia is 7-11 ATS its last 18 versus winning teams. And so, I again, it's in the NFL playoffs, you always want to probably try to focus on the teams with the better defenses overall. Also, last week, from a technical handicapping standpoint, Philadelphia scored 38 points. And when you take a look at how teams do when they have really good offensive performances in the playoffs, they don't do very well. And, I think a lot of people, they have the knee-jerk reaction. They see a team put up 38 points, and they want to bet on those teams the next week, and it usually doesn't work out. In playoff games, if you take a look at how teams do, like, that are matching up like this week, San Francisco only scored 19. So they scored 19 less points than Philly did, in last week's games. When teams play each other, and if one team scored 14 points less than the other team, the previous playoff game, those teams have gone 19-6 ATS in the playoffs. So, I'm just going to take the points with the team with a better defense, a team that didn't have a great offensive, outing last week, and go against a team that did have a good offensive outing.
Playoff teams, 58.7% home winning percentage. Playoffs since 2004. So not that big of a
point or ATS percentage.
Just winning. Just to win.
Yeah.
So that means 41% of the time the road team wins outright, which in most cases is the dog. I wonder how many road favorites there's been championship games since they've gone to this format of the home field advantage.
I can tell you. I'll just pull up the championship games. This will go back to 1980, but we can hear what Jay has to say.
For me, I'm taking the Eagles. I'm going to lay the points. They're the best team in the NFC. They've been that all season long. And they're going to get to the Super Bowl. It pains me to say it. I thought my boys were going to be here to knock them out. We were the one team that had the punch to do it. But it's not going to happen. The Niners, they've had to go the longer road. They've played now. They played the extra game. Last week's game with the Cowboys game was really physical. It was really physical, both sides of the football. The Eagles, they looked really good last week. Like, taking all the hate out of it, They dominated the Giants. I know Mitch is going to say it was close. It was not. They dominated them.
They had a
Up and
chance
down
for the
that
cover at
football.
the end. They had a chance for the cover.
They dominated them up and down the football field. And I think the Eagles have clearly been the best football team. The only reason Jalen Hurts didn't win the MVP is he got hurt. And he's going to be the best player on the field. I do not trust Brock Purdy to get to the Super Bowl. The Niners, they're a hell of a team. They got a good defense. And it showed on how they clamped down on the Cowboys last week. Really good team, this Niners team, and they're going to have a hell of a season. But I think the Birds get to the Super Bowl, and it's going to be interesting when they get there. But for me this week, they're at home in this one where they played their best football all season. I'm taking the Dirty Birds, and fly Eagles fly. They get this one done. Jalen Hurts gets to a Super Bowl. Hey man, we gotta give him some credit, man. Jalen Hurts is a gamer.
They're gonna take him out. They're gonna take him out if it goes to overtime. Put the backup in.
Yeah, and we've actually seen Jalen Hurts, Brock Purdy once in a pretty high flying game once. Oklahoma, Iowa State is a pretty high flying one. Oklahoma came out with the win in that one. I think it was like 42-41. I remember that one because I think
imagine the recruiting differential that Oklahoma has over Iowa State. I mean, it's not even close. You're talking about a top 5 recruiting class against probably number 60.
No, I'm just saying, but it was a shootout. It was a good game. We know Oklahoma has no defense, so of course it was going to be a good shootout back and forth. And I think this one might be a little more defense, but I think Philly with their running game is gonna move that San Francisco's defense a little more than the Cowboys could, and a little more than Seattle could. Philly's offense is dynamic, and I think they can move that defense a little bit. Who's pretty banged up, like I said, after 2 tough games back to back. I'm taking the Eagles this week. I'm gonna lay the points.
Philly's defense is definitely underrated for what they've done, and the secondary has been just outstanding. I mean, they have been ridiculous. It looks like pass interference on every single play, and that's that just means they're good. It should be a good game, but I like the Eagles in this one too. I just think they're a better team this year, and I think I think the Niners are a physical team, but I think Philly's underrated. And I think when we look at a lot of these Philly games and a lot of these numbers and a lot of these stats and a lot of these covers and a lot of these non-covers and all that other stuff, this is a team that hasn't even been healthy in the last 3 months. I mean, they're missing always somebody, and it was Jalen Hurts in a lot of those games. And the other guy they were missing was Lane Johnson, who arguably is the best left tackle in all of football. Another key position. He's not, left tackle is not, like a right guard. It is a different animal. And he looked really good last game against the Giants. You did not hear Thibodeau's name once the entire game, except like when they said something about him, but it wasn't him making a play. So I don't know. I think I got to give the edge to the Eagles here. I just think they have more weapons. I just think they've been a better team. I'm not happy about it. I'd like to see San Francisco win.
Trust me, me either. Eagles going to the Super Bowl? Ew.
Yuck. I know. Yuck. Yeah. That's it. It's like I don't even want to watch it.
Out of the 84 championship games, there have been 13 home dog situations out of the 84.
Wow. That's rare. Because we got one in the next one. Got the Chiefs and the Bengals, and this line has been all over the place.
This one's tough, man. This is a tough game.
It's a tough game because, people talk about it's tough to beat the same team 3 times, and this would be the Bengals.
That's the biggest beat. That it is not if you beat them the first 2.
Yeah, that's what Bill Parcells used to always say. It's tough to beat the same team 3 times.
And I always used to joke, not after you've won the first 2, it isn't. So
they've won the first 2. Last year's championship game, this year in Cincinnati. And the Bengals are favored now.
They beat them 3 times straight.
They actually won 3. They've played them 3 times. They beat them 3 2022. Straight. They won all 3 games.
Yeah, Burrow's never lost to Mahomes.
Yeah, they're 3.
AKA, they're calling it Burrowhead right now. It's getting crazy on socials if y'all not watching. They're calling it Burrowhead. They were mocking the Bills. Cincinnati's talking a big game.
You don't want
They're talking a big game, man. I know they're talking a big game. The line didn't move to Cincinnati -2. It opened.
It's down to
Kansas City.
1 now.
Okay.
Down to 1. Let me ask you something, because we haven't seen it yet this season since they've changed the overtime rule, where now both teams will automatically get at least 1 possession. What would you do if you win the coin toss? Do you take the ball or do you kick off?
I kick off, me personally, because I want to get to stop. If we get to stop and we score, it's ball game. But even if they score, we still get the ball back to go score and try to win. I mean, and tie it up or go. Me, I'm trying to go for the win. I'm not going. So I'm kicking
that's right.
off.
You will, if the team that's exactly right. The team that gets the ball second will always 100% of the time go for 2 if that's the situation it's presented with. So the issue really becomes is, what does the team that gets the ball first do? Do they go for 2 on theirs, or do they kick the extra point and then know that the other team can go for 2 to win it?
I think it all depends on team situationally. Do you got a good defense? You got a bad defense? I think that's what it's going to come down to. But me personally, like I said, I'm kicking off. What do you think?
See, the way I look at it is, I think politically, if you're a coach and you kick off, you're going to get just run through the ringer. I think like you almost have to accept the ball, because if you kick off, then you don't ever want to get in a situation where the team then gets the ball in the third possession, just goes down, kicks the field goal to win. But I think the team that gets the ball second does have the edge, because they get to play with 4 downs instead of 3. They get to know what the other team did. It's almost like you're going to root to lose the coin toss, so let the other team take the ball, and then you'll have a slight advantage by getting the ball second.
I think maybe in the regular season you might, but in the playoffs,
they don't have the rule in the regular season. This is just a playoff.
Playoffs.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens if any coach has the balls, because really that's what it's going to take. Is I think the math says you probably want to kick off, but I don't know how many coaches have the balls to actually do that, because just politically it's high risk.
You're kicking off.
But it'll be interesting.
I mean, you're a coach of an NFL team already, man. You might as well grab the big balls and do it.
I know, but we see what happens. We see what happens with Brandon Staley. Even if you make the decision that's quote unquote analytically correct, I mean, people just.
I seen a crazy video earlier this week. I seen another reminder of Nick Foles going to the sideline to Doug Peterson and asking him in the middle of the Super Bowl, Philly. And Doug Peterson looks at him and goes, "You know what? Yeah, let's run it." And they ran Philly and won the Super Bowl. So, sometimes it's just in the middle of the situation. This is how you feel.
Anyway, I'm just bringing it up before, because we haven't seen it yet. So I'll be curious to see what goes down the first time we see an NFL playoff with the new overtime situation.
You ever thought about that? Because what if they don't complete that pass, the Philly special? That's the worst play call in the history of play call. You ever thought about that?
I haven't, but it's a good point. Anyway.
Cincinnati, KC, man. Kansas City, home dogs.
What do you think?
I've had the Bengals going to the Super Bowl all year. I'm pulling for the Bengals in this one, but I am terrified. Like I damn near want to try to grab the +2 if it goes there again and play a middle. Like,
so
I think it might get like a 21-20 type ball game.
I had the YouTube commentary about my Cowboys pick for the second half, where we bet that they were going to come back and win the game. We had won so much, Al, in the early halftime, because the Bengals' second half against the Bills were +300. We were hammering it on the halftime show. It was like, I can't believe it's still +300. We bet it, and then it was like, oh, it dropped to 285. I better bet it again before it drops again. It's like, bet it like 5 times. It's like, I looked at my account, and it was like, I made $4,200 in the second half bets. +285 and +300. All during the course of the show.
Yeah.
Got a little carried away.
If you can get the, if Cincinnati bounces back up to -1.5, It's not a bad teaser situation, I think, to take Kansas City plus 7.5 and tease that with San Francisco plus 8.5 for those who like teasers. I don't think that's a bad way to go on these
I don't
two
think
games.
that's a bad way to go either. I don't really like teasers either, but that one's not bad.
Oh, I like teasers. I mean,
These are two teams that just do not lose a lot of games. I mean,
Yeah.
these guys.
I mean, if you can get San Francisco plus 8.5 and tease that with Kansas City plus 7.5, I mean, you're not going to find much better teasers than that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
But
yeah, you got a point.
The risk, of course, is Mahomes, and we don't know
For sure. That's what I'm saying. That's what makes me nervous about
you could always, if you have the teaser and you hit that first leg, then if you want, you can always come back and maybe hedge if you wanted to.
So if I'm the Chiefs defensive coordinator, I'm figuring out a way to stop that 8-yard over the middle pass. The Bengals have just destroyed teams with that. I mean, it is just wide open every single play, and then they go to cover it, and then the Bengals just run it on you for 6, 7, 8 yards. It's like it has been unstoppable.
Yeah. So
these are the two best teams in the AFC, and I know
they are. We've been saying it all season.
And a lot of people have been saying the Bills and the Bills and the Bills.
Bills were the best team in week 1, and they've gone downhill since.
Well, they played the Rams.
Right.
I
mean, but the Bills looked good early, but then it was all, Cincinnati didn't look good for the first 4 or 5 weeks, and they came on like gangbusters, and Kansas City was just Kansas City. I mean, Buffalo did go into Kansas City and win, and you got to give the Bills credit for that. But
no, they did, but it's like when the Bills, when you're that good and you have that many good players, you don't have the depth that some of these other teams have. So when you lose Von Miller,
right,
it becomes an integral part of your defense. When you lose Hamler,
right.
He's your leading tackler.
He's leading tackler, I know.
It's like these are big things.
Yeah, the Bills never,
they never recovered.
At the end of the season, they weren't the best. That's all.
So. Yep. And the same thing about the Cowboys. The same thing I said. When it came down to it, they got beat. I mean,
at least you didn't get beat with that damn Jalen Smith on the field, man, because nothing worse than that. It's like,
yeah, and I had the Jags against Kansas City. I know some people are Doug Peterson,
I had him. No, I had the Jags.
Yeah, I had him, but I know Al said he had Kansas City, so
I had the Jags.
Doug Peterson.
I was 2-2. I was 2-2 in the games. I had the Cowboys. I had the Giants.
I think I
had the Bengals and the.
Yeah, I was 2-2 as well.
Cowboys. So it's 2-2. I had both AFC. I lost both NFC.
I started last week. I had Philly early, and then remember on the morning show I flipped to the Giants. But so 2-2 for me.
I really thought the Giants were going to show up.
Well,
but yeah,
for this game, I'm going to have to go with Kansas City at +1.
I feel you.
It's not that I think they're the better team. I just think the home field advantage will just be the difference here. And the Chiefs, they've always been one of the best, if not the best, home underdog in the NFL. You go back, they're 57-32 with 2 pushes as a home dog. It's just hard for me to go against them at, even if you want to call it Burrowhead, I'll call it Arrowhead. But, and then the other thing, this is probably the key stat for me. If you go back and you take a look at the matchups in the NFL between the very best teams. And so like if you look at game 7 forward, when teams have win percentages above 750 and they, go up against each other. So these are the games involving the best of the best teams. The home teams are 21-5 ATS if they weren't favored by more than a point, including 8-0 straight up and against the spread since 2014. I can't go against an elite team like Kansas City at home when they're not favored by more than a point, when they're a home dog. I'm just not doing it. So I'll take the Chiefs.
How nervous are you about the
high
ankle sprain?
Nervous. It's like, that's what I don't have great conviction, but if I have to pick one or the other, I'm taking Kansas City.
How you feel about it, Mitch?
I'm taking the Bengals all day. Twice on Sunday, I'm going to lay the alternate line. I think that's going to be a very similar game to what we just saw. I think it's going to be a very similar game to what we just saw in Buffalo. I think that, you have these teams and you see these magical runs that they go on through the playoffs, and the Bengals are on one right now. We saw them do it last year, took it all the way to the Super Bowl, down to the final 10 seconds of the game. And this year they're convinced to finish the deal. My wife's family's from Cincinnati, so I saw pictures of all of her cousins and relatives at the game in Buffalo, all wrapped up, watching in the snowstorm, cheering on the sideline for their Bengals. And I'm telling you, you see it, every once in a while where a team, it really doesn't matter what it was. Sometimes it's the best team, like those Emmitt Smith Cowboy teams when they beat up Buffalo in the Super Bowl, whatever. It's like no one was going to beat those guys, right? And then it's like, the same thing. But, the year the Giants had the helmet catch against the Patriots, no one was going to beat the Giants. The year Ray Lewis beat the Giants, no one was going to beat the Ravens that year. And the Ravens, the last time they won it, no one was going to beat them that year with Ed Reed and Ray Lewis. And, the year that Aaron Rodgers won it, it was a magical run by the Packers. Like no one was going to beat them. And the Bengals, man, Joe Burrow looks as good or better than any of those quarterbacks have ever looked in the history of the playoffs, because he is unflappable back there. We talked about Trevor Lawrence never losing on a Saturday. This guy never loses at all. It's like, it is unbelievable. The games that the Bengals lost, he was out. I mean, he missed games. He is unbelievable. I've never seen anything like this, because he looks like he's a twig, but he's actually badass. He takes the big hits and he gets right up, man. He takes when they get a shot at him, man, they hit him. You never hear him complain. You never see him lying on the ground. There was one of those, he didn't look like he didn't know where the hell he was, and he got right back up, man. He was like, oh my God. And he never seems to make the wrong decision, never seems to make the wrong decision, never throws the bad ball. It's always like, for some reason, even though they said his line was bad or whatever last time, he never panicked or lost faith in them. He just checked it down, checking it down. It's like,
what would your decision be different if Mahomes was fully healthy?
No.
Okay. I was just curious, because I still think Mahomes is the best.
Beat them. He is the best, but the differential between him and Burrow. Mahomes, as far as athletically gifted, he is more athletically gifted than Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes. He is a better quarterback. He makes better decisions. Patrick Mahomes, in all of the Chiefs' losses in the last 2 years, going all the way back to the championship game against the Bengals, have been on Patrick Mahomes' interceptions that they've lost the game on it. Every single one of the losses, the game at Cincinnati this year, the playoffs last year, and the Chiefs' other loss this year, the game against Buffalo, same thing, interception by Patrick Mahomes. Joe Burrow, man, it's just a different guy that you never heard of. Number 16. T. Higgins now looks like, right? He looks like he's Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase now looks like he's Jerry Rice. It's like, you can't beat these guys, It's like, and even so now, right, they have the running back that can't run, but he can block, and they have the other guy that can run and he can't block, right? So they don't even have the complete package there. And this guy's running for 8 yards a clip now, Mixon running for 8 yards a clip. So he doesn't have to block, because now they have to respect that run. It's like, how are you going to beat that? I mean, how can you beat that? The only thing that stopped the Bengals at any time last week, the tight end dropped the pass. He was wide open. It hit him in the hands. He had a fantastic game. He dropped the one pass and he was wide open. And then for some reason, the refs felt like keeping it a little close. So even though the guy had 2 feet in possession of the ball, all of a sudden that's not a touchdown anymore. Even though you can see his feet marks in the snow clearly on the screen. Anyone noticed they didn't show that charge in the North Carolina game last night? Also.
But I will say this Mitch, I don't disagree with you. And I think, Cincinnati is playing really well and they're a great team and all that. But even with all of that said, the 3 games between these teams have been coin flip games. I mean, they've been each
absolutely.
Each one has been a field goal. It's not like Cincinnati has gone out and.
But they're that much better. They're just that much. It's very slight amount.
They're a smidge better.
They're a smidge better. Yeah. And the defensive coordinator for the Bengals could be the genius of all geniuses out there. I mean, that defensive game plan. Josh Allen looked like he did not want to play. He looked done. It looked like it looked like Vandy against Alabama trying to move the football out there. I mean, that's what it looked like. I mean, this is the Buffalo Bills. It was like Josh Allen. He was taking shots, man. He was getting hit. You imagine what they're going to do to Mahomes? Wobbling around out there. They're going to hit him, and that's going to be Chad Henne time. And nothing pretty about that. Chad Henne is. That's what happens when you have a quarterback that makes $50 million. Your backup's Chad Henne. He's the worst. I don't care. I know you went to Michigan and all that stuff. But it's your Michigan guy. I said he's your Michigan guy.
I mean, Tom Brady went to Michigan. I can't stand Tom Brady. So
well, Chad Henne was a 4-year starter at Michigan.
Yeah.
So it's a little different. But Bill Parcells drafted him at Miami for us because he was a 4-year starter. He only drafts 4-year starters. I don't know. I just think that the Bengals right now just look like a team of destiny, and I just think it's very, very tough to go against that.
But San Francisco doesn't, but you went against them.
I don't think they look like a team of destiny. I think the Bengals look more like a team of destiny than that because the Bengals went into Buffalo and they made them look very, very ordinary, while the 49ers at home against the Cowboys team, really, it was one drive.
But I still look at it like you've got Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant. I mean, if that's not a team of destiny, when you've got Mr. Irrelevant leading you on a 12-game win streak, I don't know what is.
Jalen Hurts certainly has something to prove.
I think all 4. That's why this is such. I think this is the most fascinating championship weekend we've had in a long time.
They say Nick Saban told Brock Purdy he had no talent or whatever, but Nick Saban in the second half of in overtime of the national championship game told him, sit your ass on the bench. I'm putting someone else in. It's like after he had led them there, after he had won the SEC championship, he made the play that won the SEC championship to get them to that game. It was like, I don't know. I just think that the Eagles, you know what it is for the Eagles? It's that Devontae Smith, it's like he's really, really good. You have him, you have Brown and Goddard, and then it just leaves those running lanes open for Sanders. And I don't think the Niners have enough. If Pollard was able to move the ball on them like that, I certainly think that the Eagles will be able to. I think that I think Hurts and Dak are probably about even. I think CeeDee Lamb and Brown are probably pretty close. But the Cowboys, if they had Devonta Smith, they'd be in this game.
I can't agree. I can't disagree with you there. It's gonna be a good week, man. I like the Eagles. That Bengals game, I picked them to go to the Super Bowl. I still lean them. It's scary though, man. I wish I was getting a point or something. I just wish they weren't road favorites against Mahomes. Like
I think it just tells you how good this team is. I just think it's like, and believe me, I'm going to go Bengals again. In 2 weeks, I'm going Bengals. I'm going Bengals all the way.
And if you're asking me that question, I think whoever wins this AFC game wins the Super Bowl.
I think Bengals 49ers rematch would be Eagles. Third time. There's the third time beating the same team 3 times. It's like, man, the Bengals have had some heartbreak way before your time, Jay. But the Bengals got stuffed on the 1-inch line against the 49ers.
Was that
the Ken Anderson team? Pete Johnson got stuffed on the 1-inch line against the 49ers. And then the other one, Joe Montana hit John Taylor with a pass. And the Bengals had the game won. The Bengals had this great running back combination. They had Stanley Morgan or Stanley. Is that his name? Stanley Johnson?
I don't even remember.
So the Bengals had this running back, Jay, Stanley something, and Icky Woods.
Nicky Witt, they could shuffle.
Right. So they had these two great running backs. They had a good team. They had Boomer Esiason was on the team, and Chris Collinsworth, the annoying announcer, was on that team. And what happened is that the morning of the game, they couldn't find the running back, and they found him in a hotel room, coked out off his ass, like not knowing like where the hell he was. So he didn't play in the game. And like they had a situation where it was like, this is the guy. And they, he wasn't there. He wasn't available, and they got stuffed. And then Joe Montana got the ball back. Well, it's Joe Montana.
I'd like this. I would love to see a Cincinnati 49ers Super Bowl. I think that'd be a great matchup.
The two Super Bowls that they played were great games. They came right down to the wire. The two times they've played in the Super Bowl. It's been a while. None of the same players will be involved.
I think we get Cincinnati, Philly. I want to see Cincinnati.
Or you could have the Andy Reid Bowl, Kansas City, Philly. I mean, any of these matchups are going to be good, but
there's a lot of angles here. There certainly is.
Kansas City, San Francisco, the rematch from a couple of years ago. It'll be good.
And they saying Jimmy Garoppolo could be back. Did y'all see that one? I've been seeing those reports. No way though. We won't even get there though, guys. Philly.
Stanley Wilson.
Was that who it was? Stanley Wilson?
Yep. Bengals running back. Tragic drug relapse before Super Bowl 23. The pinnacle of achievement. Man. 9th round draft choice. So he drafted further back than Brock Purdy. That was back when the draft was the draft. Anyways. Well, we will see you guys in a couple weeks. It'll be our Super Bowl show. It'll be our final show of the season. We're not going to do a Pro Bowl show. But we'll see you guys in a few weeks. It'll just be one game, Super Bowl. We'll talk all about it. And it's been a great season. Can't believe there's only three more games, right?
Yeah. Right. It came and it went.
It did come and it went. It always is like that, right? Always like
this
that.
is my first one, so as a professional, so
if we'll give you that. We'll give you that. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. It's been fun. We will see you guys in a couple weeks for our Super Bowl preview show. All my neighbors are having I've been invited to 2 Super Bowl parties already. Believe that? Crazy. We have a pre-Super Bowl tailgate party that starts at noon, and then it's like, so it goes all day. And then there's the Super Bowl parties themselves. Anyways, thanks everyone. Make it a winning day.